Steve said that you traveled to Phoenix with the team and stuff, which shouldn't be under any minutes restriction because you've been able to maintain your conditioning. What has your workload, your workout routine looked like over the past however long?
Workout routine has been, pretty much every day. I think my first off day since I got suspended was Saturday. No. Well, yeah, my first complete day off was Saturday. But it was good. I got a lot of work in. I was able to, play some pickup with some of the guys and got a lot of shooting and a lot of lifting in. So, I think without playing in, almost 2 weeks, I feel it's about as good as you can feel. Like I said, the positive part is wasn't injured. So I was able to get all the work in that I needed to get in to stay in game shape.
Now, regarding the suspension itself and the incident itself, you've been very vocal of the Draymond rule that the league has. And, the league has said back in April against the Kings when you were suspended that one game, and then this time that your past actions do carry weight when they're making these decisions regarding yourself. So I guess there's a two-part question of how do you feel about that? Do you see that happening with other players? And then I also asked my point B part of the question.
I'm not really one to sit and compare myself to other players because they're not me and I'm not them. So I'm not one to say, oh, man, you didn't do that to that guy. That's also hating. Where I grew up, you don't sit and talk about what another man got or he didn't get this or he got that, why I did not get that. I don't compare myself to other people or myself. So I never look at it in that light. I think, to continue mentioning like, oh, well, what he did in the past, I've paid for those. Like I got suspended in Game 5 of the finals. So you can't keep suspending me for those actions. But in saying that, I'm also not one to admit when I'm at fault, It is, it is what it is. I think, for me, anytime there's a situation and a teammate needs you to come to their defense, I'm going to come to their defense, and that's just that, especially with someone that I've been playing with for 12 years. That's more than a teammate. That's a brother. And things can be interpreted how people interpret them. I'm not really here to judge people's interpretations or try to change them. They are what they are. But I know for me, I'm going to always be there for my teammates, and that's who I am. That's who I am as a teammate. That's who I am as a friend. If I'm your friend, I'm going to be there for you. Right, wrong, or indifferent. You look to your side, I'll be right there, if not in front of you. So that's just how I am. I think for me personally, I have to be on the court for my teammates. Our chances of winning drops dramatically if I'm not out there. So I have to be better at being there and as one of the leaders of this group. You just got to find different ways, And I think for me, that's the biggest lesson in all of it. Is just like, yeah, you got to be there for your teammate, but you have to do it differently. The same way you would do something when I was 26, I can't do at 33. And so that's kind of what it boils down to. And so I can be better there, and I will. Continue to grow through different things that you go through in life, and that's what I try to do with these situations. But I would never sit and judge it based on this guy choked that person or this guy swung at him and what did they get. That I don't do that.
My point, part B of my question was kind of moving forward. Then, if the league is gonna keep circling back to, well, you did this before, stacking up suspensions. How do you? Is that in your mind now moving forward of, okay, I don't agree with that. I paid my debt to those actions, but if the league is going to hold.
They made it clear that they're going to hold everything against me that I've done before. So they've made that clear. That's okay. I need to adjust where I see fit and where my teammates see fit, where my coaches see fit, where our front office sees fit. The people that I care about, that I trust, that when I hear them say something, it means something to me. And that's all the people that's in here, in this grind every day. And, I think the consensus amongst all of us is I'm going to be me no matter what, and that's not going to change. But in saying that, there's always a better way that something can be done, and so figuring out a better way, I think, is the consensus amongst all of us. But I cannot play the game of basketball like, oh man, I can't do this because they're probably looking at it and they're gonna do what they're gonna do regardless. And I'm not gonna play basketball worried about what they're gonna do. I'm gonna play basketball the way I play basketball. The way I play basketball has gotten me here. The way I play basketball has brought me a tremendous amount of success individually and from a team standpoint. So I'm gonna always be myself and not changing that. But like I said, I do understand and know that there's room for growth. There are different ways to handle things, and I need to be better in those moments in different situations.
When the suspension came down, did you have a moment to talk to the team, and what was your message to them if you did?
No, wasn't really much that I needed to say to them. We all know what happened. We all saw what happened. We were all right there. I think the only thing that I had to say was things that's going to help in each game. Still try to be around the team and with the team as much as I can and try to help where I can. And so the only things I had to say was Minnesota, OKC, Phoenix, San Antonio. I think that's kind of what it boils down to, is being in the trenches as much as you can with the team. If that's film study, if that's practice, whatever that is, being in it with them and going from there. But, there wasn't much else that I needed to say to them.
And you have sort of a history with Rudy Gobert. Did you see his comments after the whole tussle? And what do you think about what he said, if you did?
It's 2023. You see everything these days. What's my comment about what he said? No comment is a comment, right? All right, cool.
How do you sort of reflect on the whole thing? As you said, and I think Steve acknowledged, the motive was to come to your teammate's defense. And I think his comment was that it just went on too long, that you held on too long. How do you look back? Do you regret it at all?
I don't live my life with regrets. Like I said before, I'll come to a teammate's defense anytime that I'm in a position to come to a teammate's defense. That's what a team is. You stick together through the good and the bad. And I take that to heart. I take pride in being a good teammate. That's when I step in here every single day, that's number one on my list, to be a good teammate, number one. I think that takes care of a lot of things. So I take pride in that. And reflecting on the whole incident, I think for me is, you kind of go through the whole gauntlet of everybody have an opinion, and you listen to those opinions or not. Some people's opinion I hear, some people's opinion I don't. I think for me and going through it is like what matters to me. And what matters to me is how the people that I care about feel. First and foremost, how are the people that I care about affected? How are the people that I care about, what do they have to deal with? I think that's it for me. Now, I think when going through this, the way the media portray you is like you're supposed to like crack or something, and that's not going to be me. So you got people out there talking and bumping their gums, and you just kind of sit there and ride with it. I think the one thing that I always come to in these moments is like things are never as good as they seem. They're never as bad as they seem. So you kind of go through these moments and it feels like the world is collapsing on you and everything's coming to an end, and what are you gonna do? And it's just never as bad as it seems. So when you put yourself in situations, someone that I don't respect is you put yourself in a situation and then you can't deal with what comes with it. I am someone who I love to deal with what comes with whatever my actions are in any situation. And so for me, the reflecting is all about what those that I love think, what those that love me think, how they feel, and then like what's my perspective, like how am I viewing this? How am I growing for this? I think everything you go through, there's a lesson in it. So am I getting the lesson or not? It's one of the biggest things for me. Is like, am I collecting the lesson that I need to collect from this? The reality is the lesson that people think you need to collect isn't hardly ever the lesson, because they know nothing about you. They know very little about situations. And so for me, I think it's always just trying to find what's the lesson that need to be collected in the situation, and that's how I reflect.
So what is the lesson you take away, and what was the message from, you said people you care about? I mean, your family, that's private, but what about Steve and Mike Dunleavy? What was sort of the message and interactions with them after this?
Well, the message and the lesson is 100% no one's business. And the message from those that you see in the public, Steve, you got Steve's message, so I don't really need to come and share Steve's message. Not sure if you got Mike's lesson or not, message. But if you haven't, you can. So I don't really need to share Mike's lesson. So yeah, I think there's no lessons for me or to me or anything in between that I'll be sharing. I just don't think it's necessary. I think lessons, lessons are what you make of them, and what may be a lesson to me, somebody may hear and be like, oh, that ain't no lesson, and they have no clue of what everything else around that. So I think to share those lessons, I'd rather not. It's pretty irrelevant.
I want asking a more basketball-based question. You said, but the messages you were telling your team were about those teams that they played when you were away, and they're looking for you to make an immediate impact as you come back on Tuesday. What have you observed about the struggles that you guys have been facing over the last almost 2 weeks?
I think our spacing can be better. That's something that you sit back and you watch 5 games and you can see a lot, especially when you know what should be going on. I think that's kind of the kicker, is we all sit back and watch 5 games, but when you know the ins and outs and what should be going on, you can see a bit more, taking a step back from it. I think defensively we're good in spurts, and in order to be a good team, a great team, you have to put as close to 48 minutes together as you possibly can. The reality is no one ever does, but if you can put 36 minutes together, it beats 20 minutes, and so the goal is to get as close to 48 minutes of great defense as you possibly can. I don't think we've been as great as we can be on that side of the ball, and I think, we all have to take on that challenge individually and collectively. And then I think turnovers has hindered us as well. We get in some of these stretches in games and we start turning the ball over, and number one, you can't guard it, so it's impossible to get back off a turnover. And, we have incredible shooters, incredible scorers. If you just get a shot at the rim, allows you to get your defense set, gives you chances at offensive rebounds, but more importantly, it gives you a chance to make a point. And, you kind of go on these laws, and they're all driven by turnovers. Myself being one of the guys that have led this team in turnovers for the last 7 years or so, And coming back into the fold, can't come back and join into that. Got to come back and try to show a different way, and try to veer us the other way and taking care of the ball. 'Cause I think we were doing a great job of it, and then at times we've been slipping up, and mostly comes in third and fourth quarter. So what's that focus level like coming out of the half? I think will be a big thing that I can come back and try to help us focus on.
What have you observed or made of, Klay did score 20 in 2 of the last 3, but just it's taking him a little bit to get going. And same with Andrew, he's not as assertive or dominant inside as he has been in the past. What have you made of how their season has been starting and coming along?
I think both of them obviously got off to a slow start. There's nobody's questioning that or debating that. They both got off to slower starts than they're accustomed to getting off to. And yet, I think you look at the last 2 or 3 games and they're both playing a lot better, making more shots, being more aggressive, being more decisive. And, I think, Wiggs and Klay are 2 guys in this league that have proven to be 20-point-a-night scorers pretty much their entire careers. And so how do you get them back to that? I think, it's obviously you want to get them the ball in the right spot. What are their areas that they like to score in? I think spacing helps that, right? If the spacing is correct, guys get the ball where they're comfortable in their scoring positions and they're able to go do that, But I think we all have to make an adjustment. It's not just on those 2 guys. It's also it's not just on those 2 guys of why we struggle, but more importantly, it's also not just on those 2 guys to get themselves going. Neither one of them are our primary ball handlers. And so because of that, then it's on us as primary ball handlers, myself, Steph, CP, to then make sure that we're getting them in the proper spots and giving them the best possible chance to be successful. And like I said, that doesn't take rocket science. They're both great players. You look at the last 2 or 3 games, and they're starting to turn the corner, and that's what, when you've seen guys like that year in and year out, you can hang your hat on and believe that the 2 or 3 is it turning the corner and not just a fluke. So it's good to see them both had the last couple games that they've had, and now we try to build on that and make sure all of them are equating the wins as well.
Just have one last question. Hopefully it wasn't asked while I was out, but what do you expect the environment to be like Tuesday in Sacramento? There's obviously history, Warriors and Kings anyway, and then the playoffs, and then your history with Sabonis and coming back. In-season tournament, it seems like there's a lot going on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. A lot of fun. I think it'll be a lot like Game 7. The atmosphere, just people, the excitement, the angst. I think the feeling that I'm expecting is that it'll feel like a Game 7. Can never be so certain until you get in the game and actually feel the environment, because some people, you go into something thinking like, oh, it's going to be this thing, and like people react to things differently. You never know how somebody's going to react to something. Like some people get nervous and they get quiet. Some people get nervous and they start yelling. And so I think people react to things differently, and you can never be so certain. But what I expect it to be a very fun environment to play in.
Because of the in-season tournament, or because of just the history of Warriors Kings, that playoff series?
I think it's all a part of it.
Going back to sort of what you've observed watching, something that Steph and some others have mentioned is but sort of the spotty communication defensively. Is that something that you've observed too, and how much you think you can help shore that up?
Yeah, you can just see the mistakes that are being made, that there's no communication. I think I can help with that. I tend to talk a little bit every now and then. So I think, I can help with that, but that's not going to be I can't communicate for everyone. I'll try, but what's going to make us great is everybody communicating. And it's not that you have to be as loud or demonstrative as me. You just have to say something. If you say something, it beats saying nothing, because at least I know you're there. If I hear you say something, at the bare minimum, I know where you are on the floor, and that helps, on the defense side of the ball. So I think it's getting everybody to talk a little bit more. It's not like, oh, man, Draymond's going to come back and be the savior and the communication problem is going down the drain. It's not. Will I help better it? Of course. But that's a team-wide thing that everyone has to take on that. I have to be a better communicator. And if everyone takes on that role, you get just a little bit better. And most of the time, a little bit better is just enough. And so I think that's something that where I can help most is demanding that everyone is communicating. Not that I'm going to be the person to come back and it's like, oh, he's the savior. That don't work ever. There is no saviors in the NBA. But what I can do is I can come back and I can hold more people accountable to communicating. And I think that helps us all.